What's up, college football fans and Mean Green fans? Sonoy Valente here once again with the Mean Green Show. Today, joined by Miles and JD, and we're going to discuss a little bit of the latest recruiting news for North Texas. But before we get into all that, guys, you already know the drill. If you're a fan of college football or G5 football, consider hitting that like and subscribe button because that is truly all that we talk about. Okay, guys. Well, hey, I appreciate your time and jumping on. I know it's been a little while since we've all been able to make our schedules link up and work. And obviously, there's been some recruiting news. And first, with the decommits of the 23 transfer class and Jake Long, as well as James Burns. Long coming out of Angelo State, being an All-American offensive lineman who can't help but think would have came in and really helped us out immediately. And even though it's D2 and All-American, that's still really good. And then in James Burns, from Austin, PA, the wide receiver who's elected to go to Connecticut, and Long going to Duke. So 2 losses. One of them may make a little more sense than the other. But anyway, Miles, what are your thoughts on us losing the 2 transfer commits and the impact that might have?
Well, I mean, you look at Burns. That was his name, correct? James Burns. I mean, he's still a very talented player. It's kind of very odd, UConn, leaving North Texas for UConn. But, I think we still have a very talented wide receiver class. I don't think it hurts that much, even though you did lose Shorter in the portal and now he's at Auburn. I think you're still fine with that. I do apologize. If my electricity does go out, there's a big thunderstorm outside. I don't want to have a repeat of last a couple of times ago. But, in Long, I think, the power of NIL really does work for a lot of schools. And, I think he was probably going to be too deep on the depth chart for sure. He would definitely help out with, I think Cole Brown wasn't even listed on the most recent roster update that I saw. So I think he would definitely have helped in the interior. He was interior, correct? He was the okay. That's what I was thinking. I think it's the power of NIL that's changing how we can keep guys. But the recent guys we've just got recently, I think are pretty solid. And in general, I think our transfer portal class under a new coach and a limited window that we did have with the recruiting and how late it was when we started getting those transfers is pretty good. So I still think it sucks, mainly for Long, but I think it's going to be all right in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think Long is definitely hurts the most just because, I mean, he was an All-American guy. You hate losing anybody on either sides of the line, defense or offense. I think that's definitely a bigger blow. Burns, I think that wide receiver room we've talked about on this podcast before. I mean, I think that's their most deep position. I think it's could be Power 5 quality type depth there. And Burns was a guy that didn't really make sense to go. I mean, I interviewed him, and I think he told me he'd been to Texas maybe once, and that was to play a college football game. So, I mean, he's a Northeastern guy, so Connecticut makes a little more sense regionally. But still, it's kind of shocker when it comes out. I think it's kind of shock to the staff as well. Didn't really see it coming, but in today's age of NIL, it's kind of like free agency. It's not you can have a DeAndre Jordan situation at any moment until they actually sign on the dotted line. So.
Yeah. Just to echo off of that a little bit. Yeah, the whole transfer recruiting is definitely different than it was, I guess, even a year or 2 years ago. It seems like the transfer commits are truly not surefire thing until they're on campus. And also, we had the addition of the UMass defensive end, I believe. Going to give an attempt at his name, and Vic Zaril Alabwede. I'm not sure, but nevertheless. It's a nice addition to the defensive line room. We'll see, where he fits in the rotation and all that. But kind of moving to a more positive note for North Texas fans in the recent commitments that the staff has put together. And Jaden Smith, the athlete from Ingleside, Texas, Tyler Harrington, a tight end from Kingwood, Humble, Texas, and Brandon Young from Mansfield Legacy, another tight end. But anyway, Miles, do you have any your feel or thought on any of these recent commitments that the staff has gotten?
I find it interesting they're going after a lot of tight end type players, even though Morris's and really their general offense does not use tight ends as much. Brandon Young is 6'5", 240 according to the recruiting sites. That's what you want in a tight end. That's huge. That's a big guy to play tight end. Tyler Harrington just committed. Was it this morning or the other day? And I think the fact that we're going after kind of bigger, maybe not ratings wise bigger guys, but guys that have the bigger size that we needed, and adding more depth of what we can do, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I think Jaden Smith, where did he from Ingleside? I think he's a great player, really good athlete. He was rated pretty solid on 24/7 and on 3. So, we're going after guys that have pretty good experience, especially in the Texas area with Mansfield Legacy. But I'm excited to see the recruiting's picking up more and more and more. And if we can compete with guys like UTSA, even though they kind of picked some guys we were on the radar with maybe past few days, but it's a promising sign how well their high school recruiting's gotten, especially under Coach Morris recently.
Yeah, real quick, JD, before we pass it to you, one name I forgot to mention was the Michael Levine, the guy who goes by Tank. I think he was this morning's commit.
That's right.
If big time, listed as an athlete coming out of Oklahoma. But anyway, JD, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean the staff, we've seen them working. I mean they've had camp after camp, and then they had the big barbecue this last weekend where they had a ton of targets in, and we saw a couple of the targets commit. Brandon Young was on a visit. Kerry Williams, current commit. Snacks McLean, and then Tyler Harrington was here in town also and committed after his visit. So I mean this staff is they're leaving no rock left untouched, I guess you could say, and just constantly recruiting, not taking any time off during the summer. So it's been impressive. But going to just kind of break it down a little bit. I mean, Brandon Young, big body guy. He's got the frame that if it doesn't work out as tight end, you could potentially move him to maybe an offensive tackle. We've seen them do that with Jacob Brammer a couple years ago. The guy I'm really excited about is Tank Levine, the guy y'all talked about this just a bit ago. He played running back, played tight end. He's a top 25 ranked player in Oklahoma. Had offers from UTSA, Washington State, but he's a guy that fell in love with Coach Cratch. They're recruiting him to be a linebacker, so I'm excited to see. I mean, but watching his film, I mean, you think you're watching like Derrick Henry or something just because he's just a man among boys. I mean, 6'3", 208 pounds running the ball. I'm not sure what Millwood, Oklahoma, what level that is, but the film was super impressive. So I'm hoping, North Texas maybe got a steal there, but 9 commits so far in this 24 class, and we're only in June. I mean, it's pretty impressive. Some of the guys they've got, some of the offer lists. So, I mean, like I said, with the NIL and with the state of college recruiting, it will be interesting to see how many of these guys we can hang on to. But I mean, I've definitely given the staff credit for the amount of effort they're putting into it for sure.
Yeah, and speaking of recruiting, there's a lot of recruiting that's been going on in the conference as far as UTSA as well as Rice. I think Green Blooded tweeted that out today. Rice is putting together a quiet, really good class. Yeah, and he nailed it with that tweet. I agree. But real quick before we jump off, Miles, to you first. Where do you think North Texas is going to rank in this 24 recruiting cycle in this class ranking in the AAC? I mean, do you think we're going to be top 4 class? I mean, do you think we can crack the top half? What are your thoughts there?
I think it really just depends on are we talking 2024? I think we're really talking about if we can win. And of course that matters in a lot of things. And in the past, North Texas was able to recruit a little bit better without winning as much. But now, I mean, you're going against better teams in recruiting battles like SMU, like Tulane, like UTSA. And I think if they can pull off a very solid 9-3 season, 8-4, something that's a winning record, you win a bowl game, you're doing this before signing day, I think they can churn out definitely top 5. I don't see why they could not be top 5 because right now 2024 has on 24/7 it's like 71st, which of course that's just fluctuating every single day now. But I think if they really sustain success on the field this season, and those coaches that have great relationship building tactics, clearly, if they can kind of continue to work that magic that they have right now, I think that's a top 4 class. Even if they can continue to win, they might be stealing guys from other teams in the conference, or stealing guys from other teams in the conference. I think I said that. So I think that would be a huge plus. And I think this is a top 3 class if they can continue to win at a high level on the field.
As far as recruiting staff, I mean, this is the most impressive recruiting staff I've covered in my decade of doing this. I mean, I was told somebody the other day, I wish that we had this staff, 7-8 years ago. I think it could have been the a top class in the American, just if it was just straight recruiting. Really, when you go and break it down, some of the recruiting battles we've lost, I mean, I'm going to say 99% of them, 100% of the recruiting battles we've lost the last 6 months have all come down to NIL money. So I think when we were talking about December signing period, it's all going to come down to what does North Texas have in place as far as NIL comes, or what does that look like? I think that's going to be just as important as the wins. I think the bigger conference is definitely going to help, but I think if we're sitting here in December and North Texas hasn't had any advancements in the NIL game, I think that's the only thing going to hold them back from being a top 5 class. I think from top to bottom, the whole staff, I can't really point out a weakness in the recruiting game. I think they've got some relationship builders. The graphics department, we've talked about it to nauseum, but the recruiting staff from Coach O, Coach Kirkland, that whole staff is just top notch. I mean, it's Power 5 level. If North Texas can get the NIL up to par with some of the guys in our conference. Now I understand we're probably never going to be able to be on a level of SMU just because, but say the Memphis, Tulane's of the world, this is going to be pretty exciting to see. And I think we could see probably one of the best, I would say guarantees one of the best staffs or recruiting classes North Texas put together since I've been covering it.
Yeah, I forgot to mention NIL, but I didn't forget. It was in the back of my mind. I was like, yeah, I mean, because it makes sense. And, we already lost 2 guys to probably NIL anyway, so it makes sense.
Yeah. It's a lot to keep an eye on. I mean, as a recruiting fan myself, I really would love nothing more to see North Texas pull off a higher ranking than UTSA. That would be, quite the off-season win, in my opinion. But, we'll see. I mean, UTSA, they're putting together quite the class right now. So we'll see how it all pans out. But, okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining. And as always, go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.